guys, Howard here with Beginning Music Theory for Guitar Players. Knowing a bit of music theory is always good. It can never be bad, trust me. It helps you understand how songs are constructed, how scales work with chords, how you create melodies, and all sorts of really cool stuff, okay? And it doesn't have to be complicated because it's not. It's really simple, and that's the way I'm going to present it to you, okay? Now, some of you watching this video may already know the material that I'm going to cover in this first part, but that's okay. Review is always good as well, but this is mainly for those of you literally just getting started with music theory, okay? Now, the first thing we want to do is find out how chords work with scales. That's it, right? That's what songs are made of, chords and scales, whether those scales are sung as a melody or played on guitar as a solo or whatever you like. So what we're going to do in this first part is explain how that stuff works, okay? And you can get very elaborate with this stuff, but we'll save that for a later moment in time, okay? Now, there's two scales that are predominant in our music system. It's the major scale and the minor scale. All the other scales that we come up with, well, most of all the other scales that we come up with, like the pentatonic scales or the modes, the Dorian mode, the Lydian mode, etc., they are all derived from these two basic scales, okay? So they are really fundamental to learn. So the first scale I'm going to go over is a C major scale, and that's a scale that our ears are very familiar with, right? All the white keys on the piano. And as a note, that may sound like a pretty boring scale, but you will be surprised at how much great music is derived from that simple scale, okay? So let's go over this scale because it's very, very important. It's a C major scale, and you can see the tab up on the screen. And as a note, on guitar, we can play scales in various fingerings, right? We can play one single scale with 4 or 5 different fingerings, but that's for a different lesson. What I want to get across in this one right away is that simple fingering is a major scale shape on guitar. We're starting on a C note, so it's a C major scale, which puts us in the key of C major. If I start on a D note instead, but still play the same pattern, the same shape, now I'm playing a D major scale, which puts me in the key of D major. I can play it on the 6th string at the 5th fret, starting with an A note. And that's an A major scale and puts me in the key of A major. So I think that's pretty easy to understand. So back to the C major scale. We want to know what the notes are in the scale, and the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C again, the octave. And of course you could play the scale into the 2nd octave if you wanted to. Either or is fine, but what we want to focus on is just that simple 1 octave position, right? Sort of a little box right there, okay? So we know the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, for every note in the scale, there is a corresponding chord. Some of the chords are majors and some of the chords are minors. So the question might arise, why? Right? Why are some of them majors and why are some of them minors? I'm going to explain that very easily and very quickly. So for the first note in the scale, the C note, we naturally have a C major chord. And then when we move to the next note in the scale, which is a D note, of course, it becomes a D minor. So you might ask yourself, why isn't it a D major? Howard, how come we can't just use a D major? A D major chord actually has an F sharp note in it. That note right there. And F sharp is not a part of this scale, which means it's not a part of this key. So we have to make that F sharp an F. And that gives us a D minor chord. That, in a nutshell, is why some of the chords are majors and some of them are minors. The scale or the key we're working with dictates it. D major and C major might go together well in a different key, but not this particular key. So the next note is E, of course, C, D, E, and the chord is an E minor. And it's an E minor for the exact same reason. If it was an E major, we would have a G sharp note, and we want a G. Okay? So again, just to reiterate, that's why some of the chords are majors and some of them are minors. So far we have C, D minor, E minor, and then F being the next note, it's an F major chord. And then G is a G major. And then A is a minor again. And this is what is known as the relative minor. I won't get into that just yet, but maybe keep that in the back of your mind, okay? So we have C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and then the seventh chord is what is known as the diminished chord. And that's a B diminished, which you can see up on the screen. And I'll talk about this chord at length in future theory lessons, right? Because there's a lot of variations on this chord that you can add. But for now, that's just a straight, simple B diminished chord, okay? Now, you'll notice there's a pattern to this. If we look at the scale, we have major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. And the diminished chord is technically a minorish chord, if you will. It's got the flavor of a minor chord. So again, the pattern is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. You can memorize that pattern, right? And it will apply to any key that you're working with. But here's an even easier way to remember that. If you're playing a major scale or you're playing in a major key, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are always majors. So in the key of C major, it would be C major, F major, and G major. So the first note, the fourth note, and the fifth note of the scale are always major chords. And the remaining chords are all minors. It's really that simple, including the diminished chord. Like I said, it has a minorish flavor to it, right? So that's a really easy way to remember it. The 1, the 4, and the 5 are all majors, and all the rest of the chords are minors. So now we've got the scale, and we've got all the very basic fundamental chords that go with that scale or that key. And these chords can be modified. They can be made to sound really incredible by adding different notes of the scale to them. But for our purposes, just to keep this really simple and straightforward, those are the chords that belong to the key. Okay? And that's basically how songs are written, at least on a basic fundamental level. I could name numerous songs that use that basic chord formula. And they sound great. They're great songs. Let It Be, Like a Rolling Stone, you know, the list goes on and on and on. Now, the point about this is that all these chords harmonize together. They belong to that key, okay? So that means you can combine these chords in any way you might want to. You might think, oh, it'll sound terrible if I move from this chord to that chord. But it never will, because all the chords are in perfect harmony with each other. They are all built from notes in that scale, okay? And just to show you how extremely awesome the scale can be, we listen to the scale and it just sounds so plain, right? It's hard to believe that this, what I'm going to play right now, is derived from that very scale. Doesn't sound anything like the scale, does it? But every single note that I used came from that scale. I didn't add any notes that didn't belong to it. I just used the notes from the scale. So the point is, it's how you combine the notes together that make things sound so great. So again, you might think that some of those chords won't sound good in certain combinations, but no matter what you do, however hard you try, it's going to sound like you're making music, right? Somebody sitting next to you might go, yeah, what's that song you're playing, right? Because these chords sound great together. You see what I mean? I'm just throwing them on the wall and seeing if they stick, right? It's just the way music works, and it's fantastic. So let's talk about the minor scale now. Now, some of you may be familiar with the term relative major and minor, right? The relative major and minor scale, the relative major and minor key, okay? So the minor scale is relative to the major scale. And what I mean by that is it's really simple. If I count up that C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, the sixth note in the major scale is where the relative minor scale starts. So A minor is the relative minor scale to C major. And all you have to do is look at it as a big circle that just keeps revolving around and around and around on itself. So if I play the C major scale notes starting from an A note, then I would have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A, right? It's the same notes, but I'm starting from a different point. Wildly enough, that gives it an incredibly different sound. Very moody, darker, and very minorish, okay? So the shape of a minor scale, because that's what we're using to figure this all out, is like this. 5th fret on the 6th string, 7th fret, 8th fret. Same thing on the next string, the A string, 5, 7, 8, and then 5, 7 on the next string. That is the shape on guitar of a minor scale. And just like the C major scale, no matter where you play that shape, that pattern, it becomes a minor scale. It just matters what note you start on. So if I start on a G note at the 3rd fret, I'm playing a G minor scale. And if I move it to the A string on the 3rd fret, that's a C note. Then I'm playing a C minor scale. It's that simple, okay? So then you want to know, well, what are the chords that belong to a minor key? Well, they're exactly the same chords, right? You're just starting at a different point. So the first chord in an A minor scale or A minor key would be the A minor. And that's followed by a B note, and we know that the B diminished chord is the chord that follows the A minor in the C major scale, right? It goes C, D, E, F, G, A minor, B diminished. And then, of course, it's going to go back to C because the A minor scale is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you're just going in that circle that I'm talking about. It's like a giant loop. So in A minor, we would have A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, and right back to A minor. And if you notice, whether you're using either one of these scales, if you play the scale with single notes and then play it with the chords, you literally hear the scale go by in chords. Same thing with the minor scale. Really good, powerful stuff to know, okay? Now, another question you might ask yourself is, what is the blues connection to all of this, right? Because as guitar players, we love that minor pentatonic and blues sound, and we want to get that into our playing, okay? Well, the blues is always based on the minor. There are exceptions to that. We can talk about the major pentatonic, but for this purpose, the blues in this case is based on the minor. That means it's based on the 6th of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once again, A. Now, a lot of us know the infamous A minor pentatonic blues scale. All that scale actually is a full-blown A minor scale in 2 octaves with 2 notes omitted, the 2nd and the 6th of the natural minor scale. If we leave those 2 notes out, we have, and that's the classic A minor pentatonic scale. And then if we want to make it a blues scale, we add that flat 5. And all of a sudden we have that blues sound. So once again, the blues is derived from the 6th degree of that major scale from the A note again. And to bluesify it, right? So if we've got a cool progression that we've built off of that chord formula that we just learned, we can sound very bluesy over the top of it. You get the idea. It all goes together perfectly. So there you go with beginning music theory, specifically for us guitar players, okay? I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to doing the second part, and we'll dig in a little bit deeper, okay? But for now, this is really cool, vitally important information to know, okay? We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. See you soon.